Okay, now for a quick tour of the backyard. A lot of the plants in the backyard that are in pots will die and will not come back. They are tropicals, so that's the purpose of the greenhouse. Is a lot of these larger pots, like over here, the two hibiscus trees and the golden shrimp plant. We put these on a dolly and wheel them into the greenhouse for the winter. And then there's an extension cord run across the top of the fence line back to that greenhouse where I would plug in a small heater. And so that's how we would keep them alive and why they're so large. You can buy these, again, if they should die. The hibiscus trees normally run about 50 bucks each. They're not crazy, but they're not going to be this tall. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with airplane plants, so this one has done really, really well on that spot. And, the nice thing is I've had a lot of neighbors that have kind of contributed to some of this. So back here, this guy that looks kind of unruly at the moment is a Texas hardy hibiscus, and it is the blue brulee. So I searched high and low for this plant. It was hard to come by, but here it is. It does die back all the way to the ground. If you look at the bottom, you will see where I cut it all the way down to the ground, and then it comes back in the spring. Otherwise in here, you've still got some zinnias that are kind of at their end of the season for them. And then there's some bee balm down in here, which is great, again, for the pollinators. And then there's been all kinds of flowers planted in this bed, so you never know what you might get. There's mostly the marigolds have done really, really well in this spot. So normally I did marigolds, but this year I tried the zinnias. The zinnias get too tall. I wasn't successful in finding the dwarfs. These hibiscus, there are two in the yard that are kind of smaller hibiscus in pots. I normally don't put these in the greenhouse. That'll be up to you. I've not had good luck with the smaller hibiscus surviving. So I typically just buy them, again, small, early in the season, normally in April, and plant them, and they get pretty large. So this guy, I really don't remember the name of it, but it will come back. So if you put it in the greenhouse, it'll come back. It's really beautiful. It's the purple and the green. And this petunia, this white petunia, which is much healthier, it does not have the mildew on it, is a new addition this year. So I think it should do well in the greenhouse also. But mainly you want to get these big, highly valuable plants in your greenhouse. This sago palm, I know it doesn't look like much, but these, if you're a gardener, you know these are quite expensive when they're this size. So you want to make sure it gets into the greenhouse. And you'll want to make sure the large ponytail. This plant alone is probably worth it, $200 without the pot. So you'll want to make sure and get it into the greenhouse. And this is Moses in a boat. It's really done very well. It looked really sad at the beginning of the year, but it lived over last winter in the greenhouse, and it's done really well. And all of these aloe veras, there are a lot of them. I have come from the mama plant, and I'll show you the mama plant here in a minute, but they do really, really well in this yard, pretty much wherever you put them. So normally when I pull them out of the greenhouse in the spring, I typically divide them up so that you don't have, like this has got a whole bunch of babies, a whole bunch of plants all in one. And then I give the pups to the neighbors. So it's a great way to meet the neighbors, is just hand out some aloe vera. This is a polka dot plant. It's gotten a little leggy, but it's another one. If you put it, there's some with red leaves and some with green. The red with pink polka dots, and the green has little kind of white and yellow polka dots on it. So it's not diseased. It is actually supposed to be that way. This one will come back and look really pretty also if you put it in the greenhouse. This cactus was a gift, and I really didn't think it would do much, but it seems to be growing, so there's that. And then there's this other succulent that a neighbor gave me a cutting of, and I stuck it in a pot over here. I don't know what it's called, but it's supposed to have really beautiful flowers. I don't think it's potted correctly though, so you might want to try to figure out what that is. So back here behind the pool, every year I plant elephant ears. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. So back here in the very back, I typically plant the giant elephant ears, and we've had years where they've gotten as tall as I am, which is really beautiful backdrop to the pool. And then on this side, just the smaller elephant ears, and you'd be surprised, they're small, but they grow tall. And this is that other maple tree. So we were looking for this maple to make a nice little understory to the Texas cedar elm, which I'm sure you've noticed. So the Texas cedar elm is a fabulous tree. We keep it pretty trimmed. Otherwise you'll have shade over the pool the entire day if you don't trim it back. This time of year is when we don't like the Texas cedar elm because it blooms and all of the squirrels from all around come here to eat the seeds. So you will see, like, typically this time of year we have a lot of seeds and leaves in the pool, and we normally are having to clean the skimmer baskets very frequently in between pool service days. So the pool service we have now comes on Tuesdays. I'm still trying to kind of work out with him the transfer over, so but I'll get you his phone number in case you want to use it. So back here we have, again, behind the pool, this was a tea plant. It's a tropical plant. It keeps trying to come back. It just didn't get very large this year. And then of course this umbrella plant has done just beautifully back here, and it will also die down and come back. And then it doesn't look like it. It's getting kind of yucky looking right now, but this is actually a corkscrew grass. It's sitting on top of a sprinkler head, so I thought it would get enough water to be, you know, make the little corkscrews, but apparently it's not getting enough, so it just grows up straight. And then this sage bush, when we bought this house, it was this whole back area, we couldn't walk through it. It was way overgrown, and I just didn't have the heart to take this sage out, but I do cut it down at least twice a year so that it's not so tall. And back here in this corner, there's some airplane plants down in here. And then there's this kind of tropical plant that I don't really know what it is. It's another one that a neighbor gave me a cutting of, and it's just done really well, but it's gotten so heavy down here. You can see it's got this big stalk, so it gets so heavy that sometimes it falls over, so I'm not sure this is the right spot for it. But there's some little airplane plants back up under there. That broken pot, I normally don't move it. I just leave it down there and plant something different in it every year. And you have another small ponytail. You'll want to get it in the greenhouse. It will not survive. This is moss rose in this one, and typically moss rose is an annual, but it has reseeded itself. So this year and last year, it kind of came back on its own. So I was kind of surprised. We don't put it in the greenhouse. It just came back on its own. So this is the mama aloe vera, this really big one. A neighbor gave me an aloe vera cutting probably close to 20 years ago, and I had it in my house, and now it's just gone crazy. So it's huge, and every year this pot fills up with babies. So normally what I do is I take everything out of the pot, repot all of these smaller ones, give them away, and then just put the mama back in the pot by herself, and then she just, again, goes crazy. Another hibiscus that's really beautiful, but again, this is a cheaper hibiscus, so I don't typically put it in the greenhouse. Back here you have a clematis vine, which will have the most beautiful, it doesn't look like much, and it will look like it dies, but it'll come back, and it has super beautiful pink flowers. It's just amazing. And we have some dianthus here. It comes back on its own. I never have to repot this or replant anything in there. The dianthus just comes back. This is a thornless blackberry. I just put it in the ground last year. It really needs a trellis. You can see these stalks are getting long, I would, if I were staying, I would put a trellis here and I would trim up the stalks so that you just get the ones that look like they're fruity. So we left a couple bags of mulch for you because typically I use cedar mulch only, which helps keep down like the insects. And we mulch all back behind the pool to keep the mud down. As you probably saw, we have dogs. So these, again, you've got an aloe vera, this is mint, and there's some little oregano down in there in this pot. So that mint always comes back on its own. Sometimes the oregano does. In this corner, you have a rosemary bush. It typically does fine out here on its own. You don't have to put it in the greenhouse. And these down in the herbs, there's a lot of thyme. So the thyme is kind of taking over, but down kind of up under in there is some oregano. You've got oregano, and in past years, this pot has had a big basil in it, and that basil has always done really, really well. It just didn't come back this year. The marigolds, and this is another tea plant. So you've got a tropical tea plant. It won't come back. This pot at one time had a little salvia in it. So you've got this red salvia. The flowers are kind of gone now, but there's always some volunteers. But the marigolds, if you take the heads off, the dead heads, like this one, I'm going to take them when they're dried up and keep them. You can reseed the pot with these dead flower heads, and they'll grow back next year, and they do really, really well. So back here in kind of what I call the garden, we have, I don't know, I've struggled with these. We've done tomato plants. I left you the tomato cages back here, and we've had good luck sometimes and other times not great luck. Right now you've got a little chive that's could use a little cleaning up, and it's gotten a little too big, but these were just like chives from the grocery store stuck in a pot. This is a shishito pepper, which are really great for just a real mild pepper. If you like Asian food, you'll know what shishito peppers are. A lot of times they'll serve them as an appetizer. So this plant has just gone banana nuts over here. It really loves it. There was a little marigold in here to kind of help with natural insect control. This is a passion vine. I have another video I'll send you that's got the Gulf fritillary butterflies on it, but there are no here's one flower. So here's a really pretty flower on the passion vine, kind of way down in here. You can see they're really gorgeous. But the Gulf fritillary butterflies love this, and they've got the kind of scary looking caterpillars, but they're not harmful. And this will be great. You could probably use a little trim back, but it's its first year in this spot too. I did have a rose bush here previously. That rose bush I took out last year. It had the rosette disease. They say typically you need to wait 2 to 3 years before you put another rose bush in that same spot. So just so you know that. This is a bell pepper. It actually produced some great bell peppers. And as you can see, we've got the little sprinkler, the little irrigation all throughout all the pots in the yard. So the greenhouse, I'm leaving you a lot of stuff in here you may or may not want. Hopefully you want it. There's a couple baby aloe vera, a baby Christmas cactus that has struggled. It struggled inside, but it looks like it's actually, like some parts of it are starting to look healthy. But here is the irrigation for the greenhouse. I've got all the little drip heads in these pots with rocks to try to keep them all in one spot. And then you've got plenty of potting area, some potting mix. This is the aluminum sulfate I told you about. Some of these are mulch. I think this one's actually cow manure. So a couple of them might be cow manure in here. But the heater plug, you can see it's right here. It's kind of wound up in here, and then it runs across the top of the fence all the way around. So normally what I have done in the last is I put the heater here, and then I use this little kid umbrella because sometimes condensation will build up inside of this greenhouse So I use this little umbrella to keep the condensation from dripping on the heater. And other than that, it's done really well. So you just roll these little windows down, keep them closed up, put the heater in here. There's a thermometer that the battery has apparently died, but there's a thermometer here where you can kind of check on it to see what the temperature is in here. But that's it. That is the yard tour. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to our realtor. I think you'll have our phone number, maybe our email. I'm happy to answer any questions.